This is on fire, DMV. First, Terry McLaurin is hours away from blowing everything up. $30 million or the championship window closes. Second, ESPN already buried us in the divisional round. And now they want you to trust a rookie. CB from Penn State to stop Philly and Dallas. Third, while other teams play at being stars, the Commanders save heroes. Firefighters who dived into the icy Potomac now have their night at FedEx Field. Lose Terry? Break the bank? Ignore our community? Adam Peters can't fail. You can't miss a second. Subscribe now. What's coming will define if 2025 is history or another failure. Like and stay. The truth about the contract, the draft, and the soul of this team. Here. If that surprises you, wait to hear this. Matt Miller from ESPN just released his mock draft for 2026 and has the Commanders out in the divisional playoff round. Did you hear right? Divisional round. After everything we've built, after Jaden Daniels took us to the NFC Championship game last year, this analyst thinks we're going to fall there. And you know what's the craziest thing about this? Miller has us picking the cornerback A.J. Harris from Penn State with the 25th pick. I think this 6'1", 190-pound kid has exactly what Dan Quinn looks for in his corners. Harris is a natural interceptor, loves playing press coverage, and has that physical mindset you need in our division. But let me dive deeper into this analysis because you need to understand why A.J. Harris could be perfect for our system. Dan Quinn loves tall cornerbacks who can play physically at the line of scrimmage. Do you remember what he did with Trevon Diggs in Dallas? Do you remember how he developed that entire secondary in Atlanta when they reached the Super Bowl? Harris comes from a program at Penn State that has produced elite cornerbacks in the NFL. Do you remember Amani Oruwari? Do you remember John Reed? James Franklin's program knows how to develop defensive talent, especially in the secondary. You know why Miller thinks we need another cornerback? Because of Marshon Lattimore and his injury history. I tell you this, having Lattimore was great last year, but the man is 28 and has been dealing with injuries his whole career. In New Orleans, Lattimore never played a full 17-game season. Never. The most was 15 games, and that only happened twice. Trey Amos was a great second-round pick, but he's still a rookie. Do you think we can go into another season relying on a rookie and a veteran with an injury history to cover CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, and Malik Neighbors twice a year each? And do you know why this bothers me? Because Miller is assuming we're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're crazy. We have Jaden Daniels going into his second year, and you know what happens with quarterbacks in their second year when they already understand the system. We have a defense that can compete with anyone in the league, and Adam Peters is still building something special here in D.C. Harris comes from Georgia, transferred to Penn State, and exploded in his first season in the Big Ten. 48 tackles, 1 interception, 5 defended passes. Do you know how hard it is to do that as a freshman in that conference? He's playing against the best receivers in college football every week. But here's what really excites me about Harris, his athletic background. This guy was multi-sport in high school, had the speed and agility to compete in track and field. And you know what else? He has that competitive mindset you need to survive in the NFC East. Did you see Harris' highlights against Ohio State? The guy was covering Marvin Harrison Jr. one-on-one and didn't give an inch. And against Michigan, he was sticking to Ramon Wilson like glue. I believe if Harris falls to the 25th pick, Peters won't hesitate for a second. Now, Miller's projection of us getting out in the divisional round has me upset. Why? Because we have all the pieces to go further. We have the most explosive offense we've had since the days of RG3. But this time with a defense that can back it up. If we really end up with the 25th pick, that means we won 11 to 12 regular season games. Do you realize what that would mean? It would be our second consecutive playoff season, and with Jaden Daniels' already playoff experience. But that's nothing compared to what's coming. Commanders fans, I need to talk to you about something that filled my heart with burgundy and gold pride. Mark Klaus and a group of Commanders legends visited Engine Company 18 to surprise the first responders who attended that horrible tragedy at Reagan Airport. Do you remember that devastating accident where the American Airlines jet and the Army helicopter crashed over the Potomac? 67 people lost their lives that night. 67 families who will never see their loved ones again. That's burgundy and gold, baby. When our community suffers, this organization responds. Let me tell you exactly what happened that terrible night on January 29th. A regional flight from American Airlines coming from Wichita, Kansas, with 60 passengers and 4 crew members, crashed with a military Black Hawk helicopter carrying 3 soldiers. It was at 9 p.m., just when the metro area was at its busiest hours. The first responders from Engine Company 18 were some of the first to arrive at the scene. Can you imagine what they saw that night? Can you imagine having to dive into the icy waters of the Potomac in January, knowing you probably weren't going to find survivors, but doing it anyway because it's your job? The firefighters and their families will be at our first game against the Giants on September 7th. And you know what I love about this? That the organization didn't do this for publicity. They did it because it's the right thing to do. These men and women put themselves in harm's way to help the victims and their families. Mark Klaus, our team president, personally organized this visit. It wasn't a marketing decision. It wasn't something that leaked to the media first. It was a human decision to recognize the people who risk their lives every day to protect our community. But do you think Jerry Jones would do something like this? Please, Jerry's too busy building his palace in Arlington and worrying about the sun's reflection in his stadium. While the Cowboys focus on their new 5-point star on their stadium roof, we're here in the DMV, taking care of our people. Do you remember when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl against the Patriots and all of Philadelphia went out to destroy their own city? Do you remember when the Giants won against the Patriots and New York fans flipped cars? That's not our culture here in D.C. I tell you this. This is the difference between an organization that understands what it means to represent Washington, D.C., and one that only cares about ratings. Washington, D.C. isn't just a city. It's the capital of our country. It's where the people who protect our democracy live and work, where military families live, where the first responders who run towards danger when everyone else runs away live. Dan Snyder would never have done this. During 24 years of Snyder, how many times did we see that organization doing something genuine for the community? How many times do we see Snyder personally involved in something that wasn't for his personal benefit? But this new administration understands that we're more than a football team. We're family. Josh Harris bought this team not just to make money, but to restore pride in this franchise. Mark Klaus comes from the corporate world, but understands that success in business means nothing if you're not connected with your community. Now I ask you, when was the last time you saw the Eagles or the Giants do something like that for their community? The Eagles are too busy celebrating Jason Kelce's retirement. The Giants are too busy trying to find ways not to pay their players. This organization is building something special, not just on the field, but in the heart of D.C., and that's going to translate into success on the field too, because when you play for something bigger than yourself, when you play for a community that loves and respects you, that gives you extra motivation that can't be bought with money. And when you thought we were done, here comes the really crazy part. Adam Schefter just dropped a bomb about the negotiations between Terry McLaurin and the Commanders that has the whole DMV worried. I can't believe what's happening. Terry wants more than $30 million a year. The Commanders are thinking more like the $24 million given to Mike Evans. Do you understand the difference? It's $6 million per year. Multiplied by 4 or 5 years, we're talking about $24 to $30 million in total difference. But let me analyze these numbers in context because you need to understand why this difference exists and why. Both sides have valid arguments, and you know why Terry is right to ask for more than $30 million. Because DK Metcalf just got $24 million a year with Seattle, but that was before the market exploded. Jamar Chase is asking for more than $30 million with Cincinnati. T. Higgins got $23.5 million a year with Cincinnati. Amon-Ra St. Brown got $30 million a year with Detroit. But do you know Terry's numbers? In 2024, he had 82 catches for 1,104 yards and 13 touchdowns. 13 touchdowns! With 3 different quarterbacks during the season. Do you realize how amazing that is? Terry started the season with Jaden Daniels as a rookie, but when Jaden got hurt, Terry kept producing with Marcus Mariota. When Mariota wasn't available, Terry kept producing with whoever was behind center. That's the definition of an elite receiver. Now, the Commanders are looking at Mike Evans' contract in Tampa Bay and saying, look, Mike Evans is making $24 million a year and has comparable numbers. And technically, they're right. Evans had 79 catches for 1,004 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2024. Very similar numbers to Terry, but here's the problem with that comparison. Mike Evans signed his extension in March 2023 when the market was different. The salary cap was lower, and we hadn't seen the St. Brown extensions. We hadn't seen what happened with Calvin Ridley. We hadn't seen Jerry Jeudy's new contract. And you know what else? Terry McLaurin has been more consistent than Mike Evans. Terry has had over 1,000 yards in 4 of his 5 NFL seasons. Mike Evans, with Tom Brady and a more established offense, has had seasons where he dropped below 1,000 yards. Believe Adam Peters will find a way to make this work. Why? Because Terry McLaurin is the heart of this offense. Without Terry, Jaden Daniels doesn't have that third down security. Without Terry, we don't have someone who can beat any cornerback in the league 1-on-1. But do you know what concerns me? That this drags into training camp. Training camp starts on July 17th. That leaves us exactly 2.5 weeks from today. If Terry's not there on the first day, we're going to have a massive problem. Schefter says Terry's frustrations are growing, and I understand why. The man skipped voluntary OTAs, which was fine. But when he skipped mandatory minicamp, that was a statement. Terry is saying, I'm not participating until we have a deal. And do you know what the timeline is here? The rookies report on July 16th. The veterans report on July 17th. The first practice is on July 18th. If we don't have an agreement by July 15th, Terry's not going to be there. And do you know what's the craziest thing? That trading Terry is simply not an option. Where are you going to send him? To the Cowboys so Jerry Jones can have. C.D. Lamb and Terry McLaurin, you're crazy. To the Eagles to have a Jay Brown and Terry? Please. If you send Terry to another NFC East team, you just create a monster that will haunt you for the next 5 years. Can you imagine Terry McLaurin with Dak Prescott twice a year? Can you imagine Terry with Jalen Hurts? But here's what really bothers me about this situation. Peters has the cap space to make this work. We have $31 million in available cap space right now. A Terry extension at $30 million a year would only count about $18 to $20 million against the cap in 2025 if you structure the contract correctly. I tell you this, Peters has to raise that offer. They can't let this become a distraction. We have a championship window open right now with Jaden on a rookie contract, with an elite defense, with an offensive line that can protect. And do you know what the magic number is? I think they'll reach an agreement at $28 million a year. Not the 30+ that Terry wants, but not the 24 the Commanders were initially thinking. They'll meet in the middle. Now I ask you, would you pay $30 million for Terry McLaurin? Because after seeing what he did with Carson Wentz, with Sam Howell, with Jacoby Brissett, and finally with Jaden, I think the man has earned every cent of those $30 million. Terry has been the only constant in this offense for 5 years. He's had 8 different quarterbacks throwing him passes, and he always produces. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how special you have to be to maintain that level of consistency. Commanders fans, let me recap what we've just analyzed here. Draft. Harris could be our future cornerback, and the 25th pick means we're in the playoffs again. Community. This organization continues to show its class with gestures, like Engine Company 18s. McLaurin. Here's the key to all our future success. Do you think PETERS will let Terry go for a $6 million difference? I tell you this, if we lose Terry McLaurin, we're wasting Jaden Daniels' championship window. This organization has invested too much in building something special to let it go. For a money difference, they can find elsewhere on the roster. Terry isn't just a receiver. He's the leader of this locker room. He's the connection between the old guard and the new generation. Now I ask you 3 things. Would you pay $30 million for Terry? Do you think A.J. Harris can be our future cornerback if we really fall in the divisional round? And what did you think about that beautiful gesture with the first responders? Let me know in the comments what you think about these 3 explosive news items. If you think PETERS should pay Terry the $30 million, give this video a like. If you think we should wait longer and not give in to demands, give a dislike. But if you're true Commanders fans, subscribe to this channel, because I guarantee you tomorrow we'll have more explosive news about these negotiations. And you can't miss what's coming. This is your burgundy and gold family. And together we'll follow Adam Peters' every move until we have the Lombardi Trophy. Here in D.C., subscribe if you want to be part of this community that never abandons its Commanders. And remember, hail to the Redskins.